Now, I thought I'd do this video because this is what this channel's about. Helping out beginners, maybe give them some tips to experienced wild campers. I can't always be going out into the hills and getting drunk like my last video. I've got to start with this one, and that's bringing the wrong gear. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there's a couple of different things, and you may be caught out depending on what time of year it is. Obviously, the cooler and more colder months, you want to make sure you have a decent sleeping mat, and what that means is anything over the value of the R value of 4, maybe even 5. So when you're choosing your sleeping mat, look at the R values first. That is one of the main things that people get wrong when they're first starting out. Choosing a decent sleeping bag. Again, check what season you're taking when you're going out and buying them. There's probably too many people that go out, pick up a sleeping bag and think that it'll do them when it potentially won't. You could be too cold and it could be quite possibly dangerous. So you need to make sure 3 to 4 season sleeping bag, especially in the colder months. Now we are getting the weather, it's starting to warm up now, so could you get a 2 season sleeping bag just for them spring and summer months. Always check what comfort level rating that they have on them. You don't want a comfort level rating of 7 and be going out in 0 degree weather, because you'll just be too cold. So always check and read the small print. Don't always go on the price of the sleeping bag. Check that and you should be okay. Choosing the right tent. Do you want to start off in fair weather? Do you want to start off in the cold weather? Some people don't mind the cold weather, but do you need a 3 to 4 season? Do you need a 3 to 4 season tent? Are you going to be going on a summit? Are you going to be going down in valleys? You want to make sure that your tent can withstand whatever weather you're putting it through. Check the hydrostatic head, and what that means is how much rain it can take, because you don't want to be going out with a low hydrostatic head. That's it, you cough it up, Walter. In the rain, because it'll just leak. It will start to come through, especially if it's constant, persistent rain. And now this can happen to the experienced wild campers. A friend of mine, Josh, and I don't think he'll mind me putting this there, he was out a couple of weeks in Snowdonia and he had to bail at 12 o'clock at night because his tent started leaking, and he had a decent tent. So check all those first. You get them 3 right, no matter what else you forget or don't bring or that you think you need, you'll have a better night with those 3. Sleeping mat, a sleeping bag and a decent tent that can even withstand a bit of wind as well. Now, I've never done one of these before. Shameful plug. Now, this channel is about hiking, camping with dogs, wild camping, having a laugh, having fun, but I also like to try to give beginners just a little bit of an helping hand just to start off with. And if you are a beginner, or even if you're an experienced wild camper, just pause the video here, hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help the beginner wild camper, and I've done loads of videos on how to find camping spots. What I do in terms of looking at the layout of the land, and they're in this video and they're in that video. So yes, shameful plug, over and done with. Please hit that subscribe button. There's one thing that I always do, and I still do, and that's just make a list of my gear and what I need and tick it off as I'm putting it in my backpack. Again, I've seen videos where people head up into the hills, they forget the pegs, they forget the poles, and there's no chance you can camp. If you forgot your poles, it'd just be impossible, or it'd be a very uncomfortable night. So you've got your tent, you've got your sleeping bag, you've got your sleep mat, and you think to yourself, right, when I get up there, is it going to be cold? What's the weather going to be like? Is it going to be raining? Is it going to be dry? You know, get a woolly hat, some gloves, and a decent down jacket. If you're going to be sat outside your tent while it's getting dark, or you're just chilling out, doing whatever, while the temperatures drop, it's getting dark, you just need to make sure that you've got something that will keep you warm. A decent down jacket. Again, check the fill on them. I've got a down jacket that's 660 down fill, and that comfort level, again, it's about 0 down to about -10. Obviously I've never been sat outside that hill. Oh, I'm talking here in that hill. I'll go on about fitness later on. Yeah, so clothing, what are you going to be wearing? Nice decent pair of walking trousers, decent pair of walking socks, a good pair of boots, a down jacket, a hat, gloves, spare pair of socks, thermal socks. Again, these are things that you may miss. You could head out into hills, and again, it could just make for the first or any uncomfortable night. Not checking the weather. I have been fortunate that I have done my research and I have planned to do a wild camp, and I've not done a summit camp yet, so that is on the cards this year 100%. So if you're going up the mountain, check mountain forecast weather, just enter the directions, enter the area, and you'll get the weather. You'll get cloud base, you'll get wind chill factor, all at your different heights. That is one thing that I always check. Check it every day before you go, check it on the morning before you go. Don't put yourself at risk. Poor location. My recent camp, me and my brother had to really sort of look around for a good half an hour, 40 minutes, because the ground was just too boggy. So you don't want to set your tent up, pitch your tent up in a poor location. You don't want to, don't think that there's like a bit of a slope, you might be able to get away with it. You know, try to find somewhere flat, even if it means just walking around that little bit further. You know, if you're like me, you've done some recce, you've done some Google searches, Google map searches, that the ground just does look a little bit too even. You know, you've got to have the right pegs to pitch in certain terrains, rocky terrains, snowy terrains. Is it snowy terrains? Will it be snowy terrains? Snowy conditions. So yeah, make sure you choose the location right. Make sure you're not on anybody's land, or certainly close to anybody that could come to you, could turn up as you're pitching up or in the middle at night and move you on. Always choose someone, always choose somewhere where ideally you're not going to bump into anybody else, because that's my best location, is to get away from people, to have that area to yourself. You know, make sure you're not too close to water. You know, there's a chance that you could get flash flooding and it'll wash your tent away while you're fast asleep inside it. I mean, look, these are extreme circumstances, but You just need to make sure that when you do pitch your tent, you pick the right spot and the right location. Now there's one thing, and I've definitely been guilty of this, and I am working on it, is overpacking. Pack what you need, and as Chris said in my video the other week, only bring what you can carry, don't bring what you don't need. Yeah, he had 22 kg. Where has Rodney gone? 22 kg on his back, and while it was a slow walk up, he did manage, but he did struggle quite a lot with the weight and with his fitness. You don't want to be going out into the hills thinking that you're Rambo with a 20 kg pack on, thinking you can walk 5 or 6 miles to the pitch. Some people can do that, but if it's your first couple of times, you're going to really struggle, especially if you're not fit enough. I've just climbed a little hill with no pack on, and I was struggling a little bit, out of breath, could hardly talk. But do some small hikes first with a bit of weight on your pack, just to see how you get on. You don't want to take too much gear. I want to talk about gear, you know, make sure you've got the right gear. Again, I know that bringing the right clothing, bringing down sleeping bags, bringing waterproof jackets, waterproof pants, spare socks, pair of undies, you know, a nice base layer, mid layer, fleece, just to keep you warm. But then your equipment can be your gas, your stove, you know, what are you cooking? Are you taking a hydrated meal? Are you taking some fresh food? You're going to cook it on a little frying pan? Have you got oil? You know, have you got all the correct stuff? Have you got a knife and fork, a little plastic knife and fork? And then always make sure you bring a plastic bag with you, an empty plastic bag, because when I were camping with my brother at the weekend, we had a feast, an absolute feast. When I woke up in the morning, all the pans and everything were absolutely caked in stuff. So put all your dirty pots and pans into a plastic bag, tie it up so you're not putting it all loose in your bag. So I definitely didn't want chicken tikka in my bag. The residue, as I could call it, from the previous night of cooking. Have you bought the right stove to fit the right gas bottle? Now that was a big mistake of mine. I took the wrong gas. I bought an easy click gas that wouldn't fit my screw-on stove. Thankfully I was with my brother and I was able to do some cooking, but people have messaged me because I did one of my very first videos, the ultimate guide to budget gear. I mentioned it and a guy messaged me and went, I'm so glad I've just watched your video because I bought the exact same gas as you. So check your gas will work on your stove. Has it got a self-igniter? Does it need a lighter? Matches, take two lighters, 2 spare lighters, because the igniter might not work. So check all your equipment first, and that can go back to setting up your tent in your back garden before you head out. Get used to setting it up, check it out so you're more confident and to when you get out in the hills you sort of know what you're doing when you check it out. So you've packed your gear, you've got your right sleeping bag, you've got your right sleeping mat, you've got your down jacket in, you've got everything, you are fully prepared. What are you taking in terms of food and water? Are you going on a long hike? Do you need that extra food? Do you need that extra water? Now some people probably aren't keen in getting water filters and taking it from local water sources. I've only done it once or twice and I'm still not convinced, but people swear by them. Can you carry 2 to 3 litres of water? Obviously if you're taking your pooches with you, you'll need to carry a little bit more. Rodney and Walter really don't drink from streams. They might have a little taste of it, but they don't lap it up like you're giving fresh water in a bowl. This is what I'm saying about preparation for your food. Hydrated meals, something fresh, something nice to cook. I've not actually had an hydrated meal yet, so I may test one out just to see what it's like and how easy it is. But I like something that I'm cooking. Gives you something to do as well when you go camping, instead of just putting water into a packet and waiting 10-15 minutes. So think about that. Are you taking enough water? Are you taking the right food? Are you confident around wildlife and livestock? Are you confident with insects and bugs being in your tent? These are all things that may ruin a camp. My first solo camp, which I absolutely loved, but the weather was absolute garbage and I couldn't cook. So thankfully I took extra stacks, beef jerky, flapjack, sweets, a couple of little cocktail sausages, but what I wanted to cook, I couldn't cook. You know, are you happy to be camped where there's a lot of midges? You know, a lot of people don't like that. I know I didn't, and they want thousands upon thousands, like I've seen other YouTube videos. In fact, when my missus watched the video, she actually said it looks about 4 there. Four midges, what she said. 4 midges. There were a bit more than 4. Might not have been millions like I made out, but there were definitely more than 4. So, are you comfortable walking through fields with livestock? Sheep, cows, bulls? Are you comfortable of having things sniffing around your tent at night? Could be badgers, rabbits, foxes, that sort of thing. So again, you know, people that I've known of walking on a nice public footpath, and they'll get to a farmer's field, there's cows in it. They don't want to go through it, so they'll find a route round, which means you've got to walk longer. So are you comfortable with wildlife? If you are, you ain't got a problem. But if you're not, check it out again, check where you're going, see if there is any sort of livestock. Not having a plan B. If you've got a location in mind, you get there could be somebody else there. Darn. So have a plan B, maybe even a plan C, but also not having an exit plan. So could be midnight, could be 1 o'clock in the morning, the weather, you feel uncomfortable, whatever. Do you know how to get from where you are back to your car or wherever you're staying? Do you know how to get? So navigation, have you got good navigation skills? Because navigating in the dark, if you're coming down side of a mountain or even a valley alongside of a river, can be quite daunting, especially if the weather's bad. It can be slippy, it can be dangerous when you're descending along a rocky path. Are you confident with your navigation? Have you got a head torch that's bright enough to see where you're going? Or a torch? Are they fully charged? That's the sort of thing you don't want to be forgetting. That is the sort of thing you do not want to find yourself in, trying to get down side of a mountain or along a rough terrain in the dark when you've got no light or your head torch is dying. So take 2 head torches. I always take 2, but at the minute, just for my own confidence, is that I don't wander too far into the hills. I am planning on a multi-day hike at some point, but I just need to get that fitness up first. There's no way I'm walking 80 miles when the maximum mileage I've ever done is probably about 10 in one day. So there's loads of little different mistakes that you could make that could ruin the whole camp or your first camp. You just need to constantly be prepared for any circumstance, absolutely any circumstance. You know, are you gonna have a beer in hills? You know, me and my brother got a little bit tipsy other night. You know, if what would have happened, we'd been moved on, we wouldn't have been able to drive home. you know. So choose and plan your pitches carefully and make sure that you have a great night. You know, it took me a long time to even go solo, but I loved it, and I've done it a couple of times since. But yes, it's not always about getting pished. If you're camping with your furry friends and your pooches, I have done another video on that. Tips and tricks if you're wild camping with your dogs. So check that out. Now these are just some of the common mistakes that you might do when you're first starting out, but it's all about the learning process. And that's what it is, like anything else. Any hobby that you start off with, you're going to be a novice. You're not going to be brilliant on your first. I've seen a ball there. Oh, go find your ball. Go find your ball, Walter. Go find it. Go find it, Rodders. Go find your ball. Go find your ball. Go get it. That's it. Good boy. Have you got it? Hey. Get your ball then. Let's have a look. Shall we go play with the ball for a bit? It's probably our ball anyway. Come on then. No, Walter, let's go. Where were I? Yeah, you're not always going to nail it the first time. My first wild camp with my brother, weather were horrendous. Just sat in the tent all night. That's all we did. Sat in the tent all night. He were in his tent, I were in my tent. Wanting enough room for us to both sit in my tent, said Rodney and Walter was. We were just shouting through tents at each other. So you're not going to nail it the first time. You might be close, but don't let it put you off. Do not let it put you off, because it's an absolutely, and I've mentioned this a zillion times in previous videos, it's an absolutely fantastic hobby. I get so much joy from it. Just getting out and doing it, it just de-stresses you, and it's just a case of going out, enjoying the outdoors, enjoying wilderness, just seeing some absolutely stunning views. The thing that's on my bucket list is to see a cloud inversion. I would love to see a cloud inversion on top of a summit. So yeah, hopefully this year, hopefully this year. But if you've got any other tips, other common, well, they're not really mistakes, are they? Let's not call them mistakes. It's just inexperience in it, and that's what it is. Even the experienced sometimes get it wrong, as we've seen. And that doesn't matter what or how long they've been doing it for and what they're doing. Sports, football, snooker. No, I'm joking. Yeah, well, I suppose we would do best in the world can get beat, can't they? God, I am waffling. I am waffling on. Trying to draw out the video, you see. That's what I'm trying to do. Trying to draw it out. But look, if anybody's got any questions that they need to ask me about anything, drop a comment in the box. I reply to everybody. So yes, this is it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's not a particularly long one. It might not be as humorous as the last one that me and my brother did, but I had half a bottle of rum. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.